Hey Kevin, this is a demo video for you for your Pach store unicorn saber. It looks pretty simple, but there's actually some complexities here. So let's go over it, okay? This does have a 2-button setup. So you got a button right here, and then on the opposite side, your button right here. I made a completely removable chassis for this guy. It's going to take a little bit of explaining to you how to put it back in because of these buttons, but I think that you can do it pretty easily. And then I also printed you some spare tools, and I'll show you what that tool is for here in a second. So first thing you want to do is we can take off the emitter. So we're going to break this thing completely down. I'm going to show you the inside of it. We'll go over that. We'll put it back together so that you can see how it goes back together, and then we'll fire it up. So we took the emitter off, and we're going to take the pommel cap off too. Now this has a 24mm bass speaker in it. You have 2 holes up top here. The front hole I did not use. The one that is back here that's in line with your buttons I did use. There's an 8/32 set screw in there. So what you're going to want to do is put your Allen key in there and just loosen it up a bit, just like that. And then this entire chassis comes right out, just like that. The difficult part, or it can be a little awkward at first, is that your buttons pop out too, right here. These buttons, if I can give you a close-up, they are made to go in from the inside and work from the inside, but of course when there's nothing holding them in there, they pop out. That's what the 3D printed tools are for, that I'll show you. I got one here. It looks a little ate up because I've cut it up, but it's like that on purpose. So you can use, when that, eventually these will probably wear on you depending on how often you take this out and put the buttons back in, but I printed you more. And then you can use both sides of this tool, so when one side wears out you can swap to the other side, and then you got 3 more. Maybe you come up with a better way, but this is what I came up with while I was doing it. So here's your chassis. For all intents and purposes, I mean, this is a fully functional saber all by itself. I mean, you got your board right here. So what you want to do is, I did not glue this board in. You can take a pair of tweezers or something. You can get in this corner and pop the board out. Just pop this one end out with the board, with the SD card right here. So you can get to your SD card, pop it in, out, and then press the board back down. Don't take this side of the board out over here. Just leave her alone. So you got your 24mm bass speaker right here. Removable battery right here. The spring is going to be your negative side, and then of course the other side is your positive. I do have a wire channel in here that I modeled in, but when I ran all the wires through, I just took a little piece of little dab of hot glue, and while it was still hot, I burnt the shit out of myself. I smeared it across the wire channel to keep those wires in place, so they'll never move on you. And then of course you got your buttons right here, and on the other side, and your neopixel pins. So one thing you'll notice about this is not only is it slotted for your switches right there, but I have a slot on the top too. And that slot on the top is what accepts that 8/32 set screw right here that we loosened initially to pop this out. So I'll show you how that goes in. But first let's throw a battery in it. I'll be sending you this battery. And if we wanted to, we could just use it without anything, but you don't want to put a blade in these pins without having it in your actual hilt. So at that 32nd set screw that we loosened, you still want to make sure, you can see it in there, you still want to make sure that it's protruding into that chamber a little bit, because that's what's going to help guide it. So what I do, I take one of these buttons, put it on my finger just like that, and find one of your 2 switch holes come in there, feed that button through just like that. Now what I made this tool for, I learned this the hard way when I was doing the Ahsoka hilts this way. I didn't have a tool. I wish I would have thought about this back then. But you take this tool, it's just going to clamp right over your button, just a little bit, just enough to hold it there. Now you can let go of that button and flip it around. And now we're going to take your other switch on our finger like we did before, and we're going to run it through and put it in the other hole. Now when you get that switch in the hole, flip it over to where that tool is on top. Let gravity hold this switch on the bottom and let your tool hold that switch on the top. Now I've got that 8/32 set screw facing me, right? So we're going to hold it like this, and everything gets inserted from the back. So because I've got the set screw facing me, I want that channel right there in the chassis, that's also going to face me, just like that. Start sliding in the back, and then you can look in there and you can see where the set screw lines up. It slides right in there, and that channel will stop, that set screw will stop because the channel stops when everything is lined up, and then you'll have about that much coming out. So when it's all lined up, I mean, you can come on the bottom here and you could test that. If that button is clicking for you, that top one will work. So when that's all lined in there and lined up, you can just take that tool right off. Now, everything works. So what we want to do is we want to hold that in place, and we want to come back, and on that back set screw that we use to line everything up, we're just going to want to give it a few turns. Nothing tight, just when you feel it bite, just leave it. Now everything's in there nice and tight. So we can take the emitter, and we can, you can see your pins right there. We can take this emitter piece and we can put it back on. Just like that. And then we can take your end cap and we can put it back on too. So I orientate this from knowing that these holes here, the hole with the set screw is the top. So knowing that when I'm holding it with my right hand, you know, or I'm sorry, when you're looking at it from the top, the right side button is the activation. I'm left-handed, so we're going to do a switch up. And then the other one, of course, is your auxiliary. Now, the one thing about this hilt that I didn't care for very much is that you don't have any sound bending to speak of, except for this little guy right here has a hole right here. That is your complete sound venting for the bottom of this pommel. So I gave you as big of a speaker that would fit in it, and it sounds pretty good for what it is. So we're going to take this, I just got this test blade here. We'll pop this test blade in. You could feel it bounce up and down on the pins pretty nice. I do have another 8/32 set screw right here for blade retention. So we'll press it all the way down, and then we'll give this blade retention screw a little bit of a twist, just like that. So of course, right side of the button is your activation. Tap your auxiliary for blaster deflex. Hold it down for blade lockup. Turn it off. And then to get to your sound fonts, when you have it off, hold down your auxiliary button.
Sound bank selection.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Now you can use either button to cycle through.
Crystal focus.
What is thy bidding?
Exit menu.
What is thy bidding?
Crystal focus.
Nebula.
Granny.
Revolve.
Youngling.
This is General Nightfall.
Audio player. SD card system menu. Exit menu.
What is thy bidding?
When you find one you like, hold down the button.
Master. Months of attacking Imperial targets, and Vader sends a boy to fight me?
you go. Everything works nice and solid. Blade lights up well, reacts well, activation is right on point. The only thing I think that you know, will take a little bit of getting used to, and it's not bad at all, is just using that tool to hold one of the switches in while you are putting the chassis in. There wasn't much room in here. I didn't want to go with a recharge port. I really wanted you to have a removable battery system. I just think that's the best way to go if it can be helped. So in this case, I thought, you know, that was definitely possible. So that's what we did. I hope you like the setup. I hope it doesn't give you too much trouble. I hope you enjoy it. I will actually get this video over to you as soon as I get it uploaded, and I'll get you a tracking number later this afternoon and dropped off in the mail tomorrow. Thank you.